Redneck TV did do a video on this, and I was watching it earlier, and it inspired me to do a video almost like it. I'm making it a little bit different. One of my tales I'm about to tell you is a little bit similar, but there's some differences. I know I'm really congested and I sound sick and shit because I think I am. But I already got me a dip pack to that fucking kayak Fine Cut Shader Green. Let's go ahead and get into this video. Okay, the first one, it would have to be the first time I almost died. It would have to be, most of these are at my buddy Cameron's house, but the first one would have to be when I went to his house. It'd probably be the second time I've ever went to his house when we went on a 4-wheeler ride. It was summertime, so we were fucking around down by the creek, you know, making ourselves a little track. So, I'm sitting there, making myself a little track, and then we stopped for a bit. We were sitting there doing donuts and shit, and then we stopped for a bit, and I just go, hey man, why don't we do something crazy? He just goes, nah. So, we were riding around for a little bit more, and we wanted to make a new way to get into the creek, because the way that we get into it in the first place, you go down into the creek a little bit, you go up this little hill, and you drive on. Here's the field, and the creek's right in the middle, and there's a little area, and you'll go right there, and it'll go into this little alley type holler type of thing. And we were sitting there messing around, and we drive through there, and we're driving through the creek. We're like, man, we need to get a new place to drive. So Cameron just goes, hey man, just drive through them briars right there, you'll be good. 4-wheeler, just run them over. And this is a big freaking big old pricker bush patch. I mean, it was just full of briars and thorns. I mean, it was taller than it was thicker. It was probably about 3 or 4 sycamore trees thick. And it was probably about, the height of it was probably about 1.5 of me tall. So I'm like, no man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get, you know, I don't want to damage the 4-wheeler or nothing. So I just go, he just goes, oh, you ain't gonna hurt it. I just go, what about tires? What if I run a thorn over, it gets stuck in a tire, and it pops the tire? He goes, oh, we'll just put a new one on it. So I'm like, okay. So I drive down in it, and I'm taking it real slow. He's like, gun it, dude, just gun it. And I'm sitting there, I freaking hauling ass, and I just run right into it, and I'm stuck. Okay, I'm stuck in it. So I back up, and I get out, and I run into it again, full fucking force. And right as I run into it, and I get right through it, a thick strand of the briar, well, it was about 4 thick strands, it stops me, and it just like slings me forward, and then it finally breaks and snaps, and I go, the 4-wheeler and me both go flying forward, and I just nosedive right into the dirt. 4-wheeler flips over, it throws me off, I'm okay, but no, it threw me off, but my leg caught onto the handlebar, it pinned my leg down, and I just go, take my hands, and I just go slamming right into the dirt. A rock or two went into my hand, so my hands were busted up pretty bad. 4-wheeler flips over. He just goes, dude, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So we make sure nothing's wrong with the four-wheeler. We flip it back over, we flip it back over, well, before we flip it over, we look at the engine on the bottom and make sure everything's okay, make sure the axle's not bent, or make sure the drive shaft is okay and stuff like that. Make sure the axle ain't bent, make sure your tires ain't flat. Flip it back over. The brake, it's a utility foiler, so the two brakes, one of the brakes was bent forward, and that was about the only problem with it. The handlebars were shoved forward a little bit, like where it caught my foot, and it pinned the four-wheeler. Where it caught my foot, and where the four-wheeler hit the dirt, it pinned the handlebars back a little bit. That was about the only problem with it. At first I thought my leg was broke. So we're sitting there, we're like, man, you just about died. I'm saying like, yeah, it was your idea. He's like, no, that was completely your idea. He's trying to pin it on me, and I'm saying like, okay, whatever, it's my idea, sure. So that was the first time. Second time I almost died was the same damn day, within probably about the same 2 hours, and it was in the same spot, like literally about 4 or 5 feet right next to it. I'm like, dude, there ain't no briar bush here. So I run into it, try to like get enough speed going to where I don't nosedive, just to like where I jump it a little bit and I land. But what I didn't see, there's a little tiny stump right there. There was like a little tiny stump. So it flew the four-wheeler sitting there three-wheeling right as it was three-wheeling, and then it just got off, right? It was launching itself with me off of the like little launching itself with me off of the ledge, and it was turning sideways. It turned sideways. I jump off. I bailed. Four-wheeler landed on its side. If I wouldn't have jumped off of it, probably would have pinned my leg. And where it was a 2000 model Honda Foreman. So it had the big old metal Nerf bar looking thing, like where you stick the pedal thing, where you put your feet down. That would have went right through my ankle if I wouldn't have jumped off. And yeah, that was the same one. We flipped it over, make sure nothing was wrong with it. And he's like, man, you're crazy. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to find a way to get through the creek. So we bailed from that. The next time I almost died was when he got a brand new, well, it wasn't brand new, it was his grandma's old Toyota 4Runner. It was like a 97, it was like a 2002 model 4Runner. Kind of old. Cameron and me were all like, dude, let's just blow this thing up. So he lets me, I jump out. I got pissed off at him because he wouldn't let me fucking drive it. So I just jump out, and I didn't have my helmet on, because we were having our helmets on because we pretended we were being NASCAR drivers. So didn't have my helmet on, and I just jump out, and he was hitting probably about 20. I jump out of it, I just go flinging, my face hits the ground, my nose is bleeding when I get up, and I just wipe the blood away, and I'm like, I'm good. And he finally lets me drive, and I drive a little bit, and I'm like sitting there trying to be freaking Mr. Rally Car, and sitting there, because it had a little stick thing where it just has park, drive, reverse, neutral, and on the side of the stick it had 4-wheel. He didn't tell me he left it in 4-wheel, so I'm sitting there putting it in first gear. I'm sitting there, wah, 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 freaking hitting turns like crazy. And I went to go mess with them a little bit, so I leisurely slight down to the left a little bit, and there's a tree. So I was going to pretend to hit the tree, but I wasn't going to in the first place. the steering wheel locked up, and finally in the moments to where you think you're gonna freaking die, you get that big strength. So I sit there, I just grab the wheel and I just go, I swear to God, I broke something. I heard something snap, but I freaking turned the wheel. And there's another tree. I turn the freaking wheel again. There's an old truck sitting right there. I almost hit that, and finally I just turn the wheel, and it's in the open. I turn the wheel and I just slam on the brakes, and it fishtails around. And we both look at each other, and I just go to him. I like, you drive. And I think he blowed it up. I didn't go to his house for about 2 months because I didn't want to get hurt no more. So I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm pretty sure he just blew it up. Another time was I went to his house and he got a diesel truck. It was a Dodge. It was a 98 Dodge dually stick shift. He was driving that. I was like, dude, roll call. And he goes all the way to the end of the field. This field's probably about 3-4 acres long. So he goes to the end of the field, turns around, and he's hauling ass. Like, he's sitting there fucking, all you can see behind him is a big old cloud of smoke. And I was driving a four-wheeler. It was his old beaten up four-wheeler he just fucks around with. Had race tires on the back, but didn't have no brakes. So, I pulled toward. I forgot that I didn't have brakes, so I leased towards him, and then I had to go to slam on the brakes, but I didn't have no brakes. I'm like, oh shit! And I fucking just cut it, and he cuts his, and he's like, dude, you shouldn't have done that. I was like, man, I was fucking with you. I didn't know that I didn't have brakes. See, I almost died then. Another time was we were up at his bus, and there's just like it was dry. It was like real dry, and I was sitting there doing donuts, and finally the tires, like, they caught traction. And it just freaking, I was sitting there two-wheeling. And I fell off of it, and I got up, Usain Bolting it, trucking towards the four-wheeler, trying to stop it. And I looked back at him. He's like, dude, stop four-wheeler. I look at him, and I'm like, I'm trying. I turn around, and there's just a tree standing right there. I just go clunk, slam right into the tree, fall to the ground. I look up, four-wheeler, over the hill. I look at it, and I'm sitting there like, oh, good, thank God, because there was a stump there, and it hit the stump. So I was like it went over the hill a little bit, and it hit a stump. I'm sitting there like, thank God. If that stump wasn't there, and that thing would have went all the way down the hill, freaking rolling 3 or 4 times, going into the creek, and probably ended up fucking blowing the motor out of it. Or the axle would have been fucked 10 ways to hell. One time I wouldn't consider that I'd almost died. I was just fucking around, and I was like, man, I was like, fuck it. I got up, I hit this jump, and right as I hit it, I cut the wheel, trying to do a little donut, trying to act like a badass. And it just freaking rolls, and I just fly off of it. I'm sitting there, I get up, and me and him's both laughing. He's on his 450, and I'm sitting there just like, do donuts and do wheelies and shit. He does a wheelie, and he sits there, he just stands the thing straight up. He stalls it out, and it's sitting there. He's sitting there, sitting on the seat, and he's sitting there standing straight up, and it stalls out, and it stops, but it still stands straight up, and he just falls off of it. I'm sitting there laughing my ass off. So yeah, those are the times I just about died. I'll go ahead and end this video here. Just wanted to make a quick video for y'all. This has been Grizzly Dipper 75, and I'll catch y'all on the flip side. Later.